It began in the rain, the kind that makes the city glow like a secret. She almost missed it. A black wallet lying in the gutter outside the cafe. Its leather, too soft, too deliberate to belong there. Inside, crisp bills stacked in silent order, and a note written in dark blue ink. "Keep it, my love." The words didn't belong to her, yet they pulsed through her veins as if they did. For the first time in years, her heart raced not from fear but from possibility. Every sound, a siren, a passing car, a flickering streetlight, seemed to whisper her name. She looked around, but no one was watching. No one ever was. The weight of the wallet in her palm felt like a choice she didn't remember making. The kind that changes everything without asking permission. By morning, the city had forgotten the storm, but she hadn't. The wallet sat on her kitchen table like a silent witness, daring her to open it again. Each bill felt heavier now, like it carried not wealth, but consequence. The note's ink had dried darker overnight, the words more intimate, almost invasive. She told herself she'd return it. She even rehearsed the call, yet her fingers refused to dial. Somewhere between fear and fascination, she realized the message wasn't about money. It was about her, or who someone believed she was. She carried the wallet to work, hidden deep inside her bag, its weight pressing against her side like a heartbeat. The cafe hummed with the rhythm of another ordinary morning. Cappuccinos, laughter, the clatter of spoons, yet everything felt scripted, rehearsed. A man in a tailored suit lingered too long at the counter, his eyes scanning the crowd, then her. She turned away quickly, but not before catching the shimmer of recognition. That night she couldn't sleep. She replayed every glance, every wordless moment, trying to convince herself it was coincidence. But the world outside her window pulsed differently now, more deliberate. Her phone buzzed once, lighting up the room. Unknown number. No words, just a photo. Her cafe, taken from across the street, time-stamped that morning. By dawn, she was standing outside the Vale Enterprises tower, the wallet in her coat pocket, her breath sharp against the cold glass facade. She didn't know what she was going to say, or to whom, only that she needed to see this through. The lobby guards looked through her as if expecting her. When she gave her name, one nodded. Wen said, and just like that, her life stepped quietly across the line between accident and intention. The building's silence was its own kind of music. She followed the guards' instructions through polished corridors lined with abstract art, her footsteps echoing like doubt. When the elevator doors opened, she expected an office. Instead, there was a single room, glass, gold, and stillness. On the table, 2 glasses of champagne waited, chilled but untouched. Then he appeared, not from behind a desk, but from the shadows, as if he had been waiting there all along. He spoke her name softly, like it belonged to him before she did. And for a moment she almost believed it. He didn't mention the wallet. He didn't need to. Instead, he asked about her art. Sketches she hadn't shown anyone in years. Her breath caught when he described one in detail, one she had thrown away long ago. Every word felt rehearsed, yet precise, like a performance that had waited for its audience. She should have left, but something in his stillness held her there. Not dominance, but knowledge. He wasn't trying to seduce her. He was reminding her that she was already chosen. He invited her to dinner before she could answer, as if the decision were already made. The card he slid across the table bore no address, only a time. 7. That night. She told herself she wouldn't go, that this was madness, danger, something beyond reason. But when she found herself standing before the mirror at dusk, wearing the one black dress she'd sworn she'd never wear again, she knew she already had. The restaurant overlooked the river, empty, save for them. Candlelight flickered against glass walls as the city shimmered beyond. He asked her nothing of where she came from, only what she dreamed of before the world told her no. The waiter poured wine that tasted of old secrets. Between them, the air thinned, reality folding into something fragile and unspoken. Somewhere far away, a storm began again. When she returned home that night, the air felt heavier, as though someone else had already been inside. On her table sat a white envelope sealed in wax, her name written in the same dark ink. No return address. Inside was a key, nothing else. She stared at it until dawn, knowing that every mystery promises truth, and every truth demands a price. The key haunted her dreams. By morning, curiosity had turned into gravity. She followed its pull across the city, to a building older than memory, an abandoned townhouse on East 74th. The door recognized her before she turned the lock. Inside, silence lived like an echo. Dust floated in golden shafts of light, and on the far wall hung a painting, a woman beneath the rain, her face identical to hers. Across town, Daniel Cross watched from his cluttered newsroom, the file open before him. He had traced Alexander Vale through shell companies, hidden accounts, and names that didn't exist. The same wallet, identical in description, had been found before. Each time by a woman alone. Each time the trail ended in silence. But this time, it was Eva. And silence was no longer an option. The next day, Eva found a letter slipped under her door. No name, no sender, only a single sentence. "He's not who you think he is." The words crawled beneath her skin. She searched her reflection in the mirror, wondering what part of her he'd seen, what part he'd made. Somewhere deep down, a voice whispered that maybe he hadn't chosen her by mistake. Maybe he'd created her on purpose. Daniel found her waiting at the pier, the wind cutting sharp through the fog. She hadn't called him in years, yet her voice on the phone had trembled with something between fear and belief. She handed him the wallet, the note, and the key. He didn't speak for a long time, only stared. Not at the evidence, but at her. "He's playing you," he said finally. She smiled sadly. "Maybe, but I want to know why." That night, Daniel broke into Vale's archives. Files, videos, photographs, each marked with dates and initials. He found women. Dozens of them. And among them, a series labeled simply EM. The latest entry bore today's date. He opened it. The screen flickered, static filling the dark room. Then her face appeared. Eva, walking through her apartment, unaware. The camera angle came from inside her mirror. The next morning, she returned to him. Not for answers, but for truth. The kind that hides inside the questions no one dares to ask. His office felt different now, colder, aware of its own power. He smiled faintly when she entered, as though they shared a secret the world couldn't hear. He asked her to sit. She didn't. Their eyes met across the glass table, and in that silence she realized he wasn't studying her anymore. He was admiring his own creation. He began to show her things, rooms lined with screens, files labeled with numbers, not names. Each one mirrored a life like hers, each a story he'd sculpted in silence. But hers, he said, was different. "You answered," he told her. "They never did." His voice was calm, almost tender, as if manipulation could sound like love. She should have run. Instead, she asked to see more. Far away, Celeste Vale watched the same footage from her home, her husband's private drives decrypted at last. She had suspected infidelity, not obsession. As she scrolled through images of Eva, her breath caught. The resemblance was uncanny. Younger, freer, untouched by wealth's poison. Celeste realized she wasn't losing him to another woman. She was losing him to the memory of who she used to be. When Daniel confronted Eva, she didn't deny what she'd seen or felt. He accused her of falling under the same spell as the others. She told him it wasn't a spell, it was a mirror, one that finally showed her what she was worth. He called her blind. She called him afraid. The truth stood between them like a reflection neither wanted to claim. That night, Eva returned to the townhouse on East 74th. The painting on the wall had changed. Subtly. Impossibly. The woman's eyes followed her now. Beneath the frame, a new note rested on the floor, written in the same dark ink. "You're almost ready." She pressed her fingers to the glass, her reflection staring back. For the first time, she wasn't sure which one of them was real. The next morning, the city woke to headlines. Vale Enterprises under federal investigation. The empire that once stood untouchable was bleeding in daylight. Reporters swarmed the tower, yet inside the billionaire moved with eerie calm. He called for Eva, his voice measured, unshaken. When she arrived, he simply asked, "Do you trust me?" Her silence was answer enough. Trust wasn't what he wanted. It was surrender. Daniel's article hit that afternoon. Lines of truth, threaded with danger. He had written everything. The women, the money, the manipulation. But the one thing he couldn't print was whatever had become to Vale. She wasn't his victim anymore. She was his accomplice, whether she meant to be or not. When he called her, she didn't answer. She was already walking back into the fire. When Celeste Vale confronted her husband, there were no accusations, only exhaustion. "You built your kingdom on ghosts," she said softly, holding the drives he once hid from her. He didn't deny it. "They were never ghosts," he replied. "They were the only ones who looked back." She watched him then, and for the first time saw the ruin behind his composure. A man who built control to replace love. Eva arrived at the tower just as the lights began to fail. The elevators were locked, alarms silent. He was waiting for her on the roof, where the city stretched beneath them like a kingdom built on lies. He told her she was free to leave, that she'd already served her purpose. She asked what that meant. "You made me believe again," he said, voice trembling for the first time. "Now I can let go." Below, the world collapsed in headlines and chaos. Above, time slowed. Eva stepped closer until the rain between them vanished. "You wanted control," she said, "but you gave me freedom." He smiled faintly, tears lost in the storm. Then maybe that's all this was for. When she turned away, he didn't stop her. The sound came seconds later. Not a scream, just the silence after a fall. And in that silence, the rain kept falling as if trying to wash away the truth that no one would ever tell. The world moved on quickly, as it always does with rich men who fall. The news called it tragedy, investors called it closure, and Eva Moreno called it silence. She vanished from the city, leaving no trace. Not even the wallet. Yet somewhere in the archives of Vale Enterprises, servers still hummed quietly, replaying her every movement, frozen in digital memory. The experiment had ended, but the mirror was still alive. Daniel Cross sat alone at the bar where it all began. The city buzzed around him, indifferent, relentless. The story had made his name. The journalist who exposed a billionaire's secret world. But victory tasted like metal. He opened his phone one night to a message from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. The townhouse on East 74th. A single candle burned inside. Celeste Vale became the public face of the empire's rebirth. She spoke of ethics, transparency, reinvention, all the words that sound like redemption but aren't. Yet, in her private office, she kept one portrait hidden behind glass. A charcoal sketch of Eva, rain falling across her face. Sometimes late at night she'd whisper, "I forgive you," though she never knew if it was meant for Eva or for herself. When Daniel returned to the townhouse, he found the door unlocked. The air inside was still, almost sacred. The painting on the wall was gone, replaced by a mirror, tall, flawless, and cold. His reflection flickered. For a second, it wasn't his own face staring back. It was hers. The same dark eyes, the same quiet question. What did we become? Somewhere far from the city, by the edge of a quiet sea, Eva Moreno paints again. The waves blur the horizon. The wind smells of salt and ash. Her canvas shows a man's silhouette standing in the rain, half erased by white paint. She doesn't sign her name. She never does anymore. When the tide rises, she leaves the painting behind on the shore, letting the ocean decide what survives. Months passed before anyone found the letter. It arrived at Vale Enterprises, addressed simply to the founder. No sender, no stamp. Only a folded page inside that smelled faintly of sea salt. The handwriting was hers. Calm, deliberate, final. You built a mirror to see yourself. I built a window to let you go. No one knew who opened it first, but by then, it didn't matter. Some stories end not with truth, but with forgiveness. In the weeks that followed, the city spoke of rebirth. New investors, new leadership, the same story told in cleaner language. But in quiet corners of downtown, people whispered about the man who left everything behind, and the woman who taught him how to lose it. They called her a muse, a ghost, a thief, a saint, and maybe she was all of them. Maybe that's how redemption always begins. As rumor, Daniel Cross kept the mirror from the townhouse. He hung it in his apartment, never admitting why. Sometimes after a long night, he'd catch a glimpse of her behind his reflection, not watching, just waiting. He'd whisper into the empty room, "Did you forgive him?" The glass never answered, but sometimes he swore it smiled. At the ocean's edge, the tide carried the painting back, warped, half harassed. Locals said it appeared after a storm. No artist ever seen. The figure in the rain had vanished entirely, leaving only white waves against a gray horizon. Some said it looked unfinished. Others said it was finally complete. Years later, a collector found the original wallet at an estate sale. The leather softened, the note still inside. "Keep it, my love." No one could trace its origin. Yet, when the light hit the ink just right, another message appeared faintly beneath. Invisible until now. It was never about money. It was always about you. And somewhere far away, on a quiet shore, a woman smiled without knowing why.